Hello and welcome. Tonight, River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara promises to implement the Supreme Court judgment as he orders outgoing chairmen to hand over to heads of local government administrations on Monday. President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, raises concerns over disobedience to court orders, asks government to lead by example. Former President Goodluck Jonathan and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar described late Afenifere leader PA Adebanjo as a courageous leader during a visit to his residence in Lagos. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer unveils a 4-step plan to guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. We begin in River State, where Governor Siminalayi Fubara has assured residents that his administration will implement the Supreme Court's verdict after carefully reviewing its certified true copy. In a state broadcast, Governor Fubara says that irrespective of how he feels about the judgment, the law must be obeyed.
Although we disagree with the judgment, we are bound to obey the order made therein as a law-abiding government. Since inception, we have conducted the affair of government within the framework of our Constitution, due process, and the rule of law. While we are not above mistakes, because we are humans, we believe that we have not, as a government, done anything deliberately to trample on the rule of law or the hallowed principles of constitutional governance. Accordingly, I've had a meeting with my team of lawyers, and they have assured me that the certified true copy of the judgment may be available to them by Friday, the 7th March of 2025. I assure you that upon the receipt of certified judgment, we shall study the ramification and implement them without reservation to move the state forward.
The governor also gives fresh directive on the administration of local government councils in the state following the judgment.
Given the outlawing of caretaker arrangements in the local government system, I hereby direct head of local government administration to immediately take over the administration of the 23 local government council, pending the conduct of a fresh election by the River State Independent Electoral Commission. I further direct that the outgoing local government chairman to formally hand over to the head of local government administration by Monday, the 3rd of March 2025. Although our dear states seem to be back in trying time, I urge everyone to remain calm and peacefully go about with their legitimate daily activities as we continue to do everything in our power to advance our responsibility to the citizen.
Meanwhile, the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, the NBA, Mr. Afam Osigwe, has voiced his concerns over cases of disobedience to court orders in the country, especially from government authorities. Speaking exclusively to Channels Television, the NBA president said there will be better foreign direct investment into the country if investors have confidence in Nigeria's justice system. According to the NBA president, government must lead by example by not disobeying court orders.
People will not respect us. People will not come to Nigeria to do business. There will be less and less foreign direct investment if investors do not think our court system, our justice system works. If they do not have confidence in the ability of our adjudicative system to resolve disputes between parties, for so long will they go elsewhere, or for so long will they come here and insist that in case of a dispute between them and their Nigerian partners, whether be government or individual, that such matters can only be resettled in the courts of another country or by arbitration held in other countries. So what have we talked about? Loss of confidence a negative business outlook or climate, capital flights, the foreign exchange will lose and pay when we travel to do these matters there, or pay arbitrators or pay foreign lawyers to represent us or act for us. And also, what message are we sending? Our court system cannot be trusted. You can do business here, but if there's any problem, find your way. We are hoping to make this place not only a tourist destination, but a business destination. We keep struggling to improve our standing on ease of doing business. But if our judiciary, if our judicial justice system does not engender the confidence that people require to come here to invest, to have the assurance that disputes will resolve not only justly, but in a timely manner, they won't come. The government has to drive this. The government must be exemplary, because some of these people also have things to do with government and regulatory agencies. They also want to know that this government is subject to law.
To catch the full interview with the NBA president, please watch Newsnight by 9 p.m. on Monday, March the 3rd, on all channels television platforms. 2 weeks after the death of the Afenifere leader, PA Adebanjo, prominent figures continue to visit his residence in Lekki, Lagos, to pay their last respects. On Sunday, former President Goodluck Jonathan and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar were among the dignitaries who honored the elder statesman. They described him as a courageous leader who lived a life of service and commitment to justice. Our correspondent, Dari Idowu, reports.
The home of the late PA Adebanjo remains a hub of activities as dignitaries arrive to pay tribute to the man widely regarded as a principled advocate for democracy and justice. At about 2 p.m., former President Goodluck Jonathan and his entourage arrived at the Lekki residence. Also in attendance were notable personalities including Chief Bode George, former Sierra Leonean President Ernest Koroma, marketing and communications guru Biodun Shobanjo, former Lagos State Deputy Governor Senator Kuforola Bokno Akerele, lawyer and activist Dele Farotimi, and several Afenifere leaders.
I want to thank you again from the bottom of our hearts for coming today, for acknowledging our father for who he is, who he was, and who he will continue to be to Nigeria.
The former president praised PA Adebanjo's lifelong pursuit of truth and justice.
Our dear leader was not the leader of Afenifere alone, the leader of this country. He was a man with enormous wisdom and courage, the willingness to do the right thing for this country. He believed in truth and he believed in justice. No nation can grow when there's no truth, when there's no justice.
The former president later led his delegation in signing the condolence register. Shortly after the departure of the former president, former vice president and 2023 presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, arrived with a delegation of political and business leaders. Members of Afenifere set the tone for this visit with their team song. The former vice president is not convinced that the new crop of leaders are living by the exemplary leadership style set by PA Adebanjo.
I have a mixed feeling that those of us who have come after him or come after their set are not living to expectations, not living to what they taught us. I mean, it's fairly disappointing.
PA Adebanjo passed away in his residence on Friday, February 14, at the age of 96. Since his passing, numerous dignitaries have visited to pay their respect, including former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi, and the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Pastor Enoch Adeboye. Dari Idowu, Channels Television News.
My administration will continue to prioritize issues of security in order to checkmate the activities of persons who seek to politicize it for their selfish aim. Well, these are the words of Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State. Now, the state governor was speaking when he received 59 rescued kidnapped victims at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim house. According to him, over 300 hostages have been released from kidnappers' den through the non-kinetic model initiated by his administration as part of efforts to address insecurity in the state.
Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State is playing host to some kidnapped victims who were released recently through the non-kinetic initiative of the state government in collaboration with the Office of the National Security Advisor. The victims include infants, children, women and men who were kidnapped some months ago at various locations in Kauru, Kaura, Kachia and Kajuru local government areas of the state. After receiving intense medical treatment, psychosocial therapy and rehabilitation, the victims interface with the state governor.
In the last 6 months thereabout, more than 300 of our captives have been released. And for me, it's one of the major achievements of our government. Some of the frontline local governments like Bindingwari, Giwa, Kachia, Igabi, people have still returned back to their farms.
The governor also maintains that some conflict merchants are benefiting from insecurity, warning that his administration will not give room for such people to succeed, just as he promises to support the released victims for them to start a new life after their harrowing experience.
Kaduna State government have not paid a single ransom to anybody since I became governor. That is for me something that we believe is as a result of the progress and success we have been achieving as part of Kaduna model.
Some of the victims shared their experience while commending Governor Sani for ensuring their safe return.
Governor Uba Sani, we are grateful for all you have done. May God bless your reign. May God bless you. We are grateful.
Through the intervention of Governor Uba Sani and his team, we were rescued and have been here for the past 11 days with roofs over our head.
For over a decade, Kaduna State suffered insecurity orchestrated by bandits and terrorists. But with the return of relative peace in all the conflict-impacted communities, the administration of Governor Uba Sani appears poised to sustain the tempo by addressing the underlying causes of insecurity, such as poverty, unemployment, and social inequality.
In part 2 after the break, Ogun State government and residents of flood-prone areas across the border with Lagos State agreed to work together to mitigate the effects of their floods as the rainy season approaches. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara promises to implement the Supreme Court judgment as he orders outgoing chairmen to hand over to heads of local government administrations on Monday. President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, raises concerns over disobedience to court orders, asks government to lead by example. Former President Goodluck Jonathan and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar described late Afenifere leader PA Adebanjo as a courageous leader during a visit to his residence in Lagos. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer unveils a 4-step plan to guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. Governor Umar Eno of Akwa Ibom State is appealing to President Bola Tinubu to support the development of the Ibom Deep Sea Port in the state. Now, the governor, who led a 104-member delegation on a courtesy visit to the State House, said the project will be of immense benefit to the state, the South-South region, and help boost Nigeria's economic growth. Our State House correspondent, Lanre Lasisi, now reports.
President Bola Tinubu arrives the council chamber for a meeting with a 104-member delegation from Akwa Ibom State, led by Governor Omoeno. The delegation also includes the President of the Senate, religious leaders, former ministers, and lawmakers from the state. Some ministers and aides of the President were also in attendance. President of the Senate commends President Tinubu for his leadership style.
Mr. President, I'd like to describe you. People think you are an astute politician, but I would rather think that you are an astute leader. People say that a politician thinks of the next election, but a leader thinks of the next generation. Your budget of 2025 is a budget that reflects your deep thoughts and aspirations for the generations of Nigerians yet unborn.
Governor Eno thanks the president for his reforms, which he believes has impacted states positively. He also makes several requests.
It is quite impossible for any state government to embark and finish a deep sea port without the support of the federal government. So, Your Excellency, we come here to appeal for your fatherly intervention so that we can continue with the deep sea port project. The realization of this project will be an economic game changer, not only for our state, but for the South-South, Southeast, respectively, and indeed the nation at large.
It was then time for President Tinubu to respond.
I will not let you down. I've heard about the request of Ibom, deep sea port, the request for state visit and the request for further development programs and plans. You have a very good governor.
The Akwa Ibom State Council of Traditional Rulers then conferred on President Tinubu the highest traditional title of Otuekong, Commander-in-Chief of Akwa Ibom. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
The National Bureau of Statistics is expected to release new data and methodology for the computation of Nigeria's inflation rate and gross domestic product (GDP). Though Valentine's Day may be over, this could mark the beginning of Nigeria's love affair with the new statistics. Tonight, Babajide Ogunsanwo, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is here to share more analysis, insight, and intelligence about the revised GDP and inflation figures. Babajide, great to have you again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Anthony.
All right, so we're talking about the National Bureau of Statistics. We're expected to release the new data and methodology of the inflation rate. Now, let me ask, is the Bureau of Statistics, really likely to release these reports this week? First of all.
So clearly we've seen the Bureau of Statistics release its report. What we are now looking at is the President has announced a 55 trillion naira budget, which is the real discussion this week. And so the thing is, what Nigerians are really asking is, first is, how significant is this 55 trillion naira budget? And the second question is, how much impact will this budget have? So to the question of how much impact will a 55 trillion naira budget have, the answer shockingly is very little impact. And why do I say so? Today, Nigeria's household spending, that's monies citizens, you and I spend, that budget is still greater than the budget of the federal government. In simple terms, the Bureau of Statistics says household spending accounts for about approximately 60% of the economy. So what I'm saying, Ayatollah, is the budget of citizens is still more important than the budget of the government. And this was the same fact that in 1995, the leader, the Prime Minister of China, Jiang Zemin, had. It took a position that the people's budget was more important than the government than the budget of China. And so, Ayotunde, in 1995, the World Bank then had brought out a report that the GDP per capita of China and that of Nigeria as at 1995 was approximately the same, $1,400 in 1995. What did the leader of China do in 1995, Jiang Zemin? He took the position that since the people's budget was more important than the government's budget, he did all he could to get these people to spend more, to get businesses to employ more, and to get the Chinese economy to grow faster. And so even though in 1995, China and Nigeria had approximately the same GDP per capita of $1,400, 3 decades after, 2025, the World Bank now says China's per capita GDP is in excess of $12,000, while that of Nigeria is less than $4,000. So in simple terms, yes, a 55 trillion naira budget means a lot. However, what means much more is the budget of the people. The government has to do all within its means to get Nigerians to spend more. And for you to get Nigerians to spend more, Nigerians have to earn more. And for Nigerians to earn more, more Nigerians have to be employed. Now, let's take a look at, now that we've talked about how much impact will this budget have, the next question is, what is the priority of the government and is it changing? And the evidence we have shows that a bit of the government's priority is changing, especially when we look at the capital budget of 2024 relative to the 2025 capital budget. Here's what you find. The government is placing a lot more emphasis on science, technology, and innovation. In the 2024 budget, science, technology, and innovation had the capital budget of just about 310 billion naira. In this budget, science, tech, and innovation has a capital budget in excess of 1 trillion naira. To put this in better perspective, in the 2024 budget, education and defense clearly had a higher capital budget than science, tech, and innovation. In this budget, science, tech, and innovation has a capital budget that is higher than the Ministry of Education and the capital budget of defense. So clearly it allows us to see, yes, the government is moving a lot more money into plans to promote science, technology, and innovation, while it still tries to hold all the other essential parameters as priority.
Interesting. I was going to ask you again how will the reports really affect the decisions of the CBN and government, but perhaps we'll still talk about that. But now the preliminary reports and about the economy, how much has changed, since the last rebasing of the GDP?
A lot has changed since the last rebasing of the GDP. That takes us back to 2014 when those GDP figures were rebased. However, we also need to look at the GDP rebasing figures in perspective with today's reality. And today's reality is looking at the government's budget priorities. And if, again, we take a look at what this GDP means in one hand and what is the government spending on the second hand, it allows us to clearly see where the focus is and which is the chart of the week. And if we take a look at the chart of the week, you clearly see that these are the 6 critical ministries that most of the monies are going into. Defense, this year, 3 trillion naira relative to 1.64 trillion last year. Education has a budget 2.59 trillion naira, second highest. Health and social welfare, over 1 trillion naira. Agric and food security, 1.22 trillion naira. Works, we see the budget of works again in excess of 1 trillion naira, and we see science, tech, and innovation. Clearly, these are the 6 areas that the government is investing its funds in. These are the 6 areas that the government feels will assist to transform and restore the economy, using the president's words. However, the fact is this will help, but the president needs to focus more on, or still focus on, how to get Nigerians spending. Again, if you take a look at the #1 priority based on spending right now, we're looking at the defense spending of 1.4 trillion naira. And clearly, if we also look at the recent remarks by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabi Musa, he's also made his position clear on what the president has done in this budget, by clearly saying that this budget allows them to see that the Commander-in-Chief has made his priorities clear and says that the priorities of the Commander-in-Chief are clear, and our optimism about Nigeria's security and defense is at its peak. So this is the first time we're seeing such budget for defense. We're looking at over 3 trillion naira. The first time the defense budget to be crossing the 3 trillion naira mark, and the military leadership has shown that, are saying that they're optimistic and their optimism is at its peak. We also understand that the ministries of education, health and social welfare, agriculture and food security, work, science, tech and innovation clearly have also said that beyond this budget, the next thing will be, will funds be available to fund this budget? Because I think at the end of the day, there are 3 things that are important. The first is the budgeting. The second is releasing money for the budget.
That's always an issue, indeed.
Releasing money. But for me, perhaps the third is the most important, which is implementing and monitoring, which is, yes, budgeting, releasing money for the budget. However, are these funds being used for what they were released for? In simple terms, monitoring the budget. If we're able to get these 3 things in this 55 trillion naira budget, 2025 clearly will be a better year for Nigerians than 2024. Let's not forget how we started. The budget of the government is important, but the budget of the common man is even more important.
I would definitely leave it at that. But thank you so much for your analysis again on the News at 10.
The pleasure is all mine.
Residents who live around the Isheri, Kara and Wariwa and border communities of Ogun and Lagos State have pledged to work with government to eradicate flood incidents as the rainy season fast approaches. They made the pledge during a meeting with representatives of Ogun State government led by the Commissioner for the Environment over the weekend.
The 2025 rainy season is around the corner, and residents of Kara, Wawa, Isheri and other communities, as well as the government, are putting heads together to solve the perennial flooding affecting their areas. For years, they have been inundated with floods during rainy seasons, and each time, water is released from the Oyo Dam. Commissioner for the Environment, Ogun State, Ola Oresonya, explains while interacting with residents what the government is doing to solve the age-long problem.
We have various options to make sure that we tame the river beyond the meandering of that river itself, so that the flow velocity into the Lagos Lagoon can actually increase.
Members of affected communities bear their thoughts on how they have been affected by excess water and called on the government to fast-track efforts targeted at alleviating the problem.
The discharge into the river, to the Oparo River, is enabling massive growth of this vegetation that is blocking the channel.
President Tinubu put us in mind, release money, but we don't see contractor find a healthy operation, but they need to put speed.
Representatives of government and residents are optimistic about the possibilities around solving the flooding in border communities of Ogun and Lagos states.
Create new tributaries, new outlets for the Ogun River across this wetland, so that we can put this in phases. So we have to let them know now, because some buildings will be affected, people will be affected, but we just have to do it to make this place livable.
We as a council too will also do monitoring on their behalf. Once in a while, we have a meeting with them. So wherever they are lacking, I can only step in, talk to the commissioner, and we do that for ourselves.
We know that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we are in it for the long haul. And as you can see, we've agreed today, we take incremental objectives that can be achieved within a year. We execute it, we monitor, we achieve it, and then we move on.
This consultation is not new, but participants are looking forward to a better approach to tackling the perennial flooding problem in their communities, as they all pledge to work together to achieve better results.
Still ahead on the News at 10, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, arrests a businessman for allegedly attempting to traffic a large consignment of cocaine to Istanbul, Turkey. Please stay with us. Welcome back. In the spirit of Ramadan fasting, which is characterized by the act of charity or giving to people in need, Gombe State Governor Inuwa Yahaya has ordered the distribution of palliatives to the poor and vulnerable persons in the state. The governor directed the committee headed by the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Abubakar Lugerewo, to share all available food items in the store of the state to persons in need, including persons with disability, the aged, and students on campuses. We'll have that report from Gombe a little later. We've seen some residents and allottees of the Ikota resettlement scheme in the Etiosa local government area of Lagos State are expressing their distress over what they call unlawful evictions and demolitions carried out by developers in conjunction with the Lagos State Ministry of Housing. They are concerned that their homes are being destroyed for housing another development without their consent and without any agreed upon compensation.
The demolition of houses in Ikota resettlement scheme commenced in 2022, but the origin of this process can be traced back to 2008.
They won't come.
Originally constructed by HFP Construction and Engineering Company for military personnel, these prefabricated homes were later allocated to evictees from the Maroko community in 1990 by the military government of Lagos State. The Lagos State Ministry of Housing is reportedly executing the demolition in phases to prepare the land for the development of a new, more dignified housing estate, which is gradually taking shape. While the government has indicated that monetary compensation will be provided to those affected, several residents are alleging irregularities in the process, claiming due process has not been followed.
We understand that redevelopment is essential in the reurbanization of a place, and we are ready to adjust and to key into it. We don't have an issue. Build Ikota for Ikota is the mandate we are looking for. 5 million naira is nothing to write home about. According to a report that our sister estate, Jakonde Estate, Ilasan, was given 11 million naira and 250 for relocation. Why some were given apartments, I think a 2-bedroom flat or 3-bedroom flat in whatsoever consent. So we expected a fair treatment, not that if you don't want, we're going to grind on you, we're going to push you out. And which is an example of what we see in flat 781 and many other flats you can see around, that some have been broken without due compensation. This is our nationality. We are being treated like rats in our own homes. We are being treated in pains. And I think this injustice, this modern day land grabbing and pain infliction should stop.
In contrast, another allottee provides a different perspective regarding the transactions between the state government and community members concerning enumeration and compensation.
Because we were carried along, everybody was asked to view their point, their opinion. A lot of people viewed their opinion. In fact, it was a crowded environment. People talked and the government heard from us. We also gave them feedback. Myself, my father's house, they're giving me money. The other house, though, they've not settled me for the other house because I bought on the house. Because there are categories of people here. Those who bought, those who inherited, and those who are the owners. But the real owners are very few because they are elderly people. Most of them have gone. So they gave us money. Myself, they gave me money.
So you giving for your father's house?
I was giving 5 million. But those who build illegal structures, they are giving them based on their structures.
Attempts to obtain clarification from the Lagos State Ministry of Housing have been unsuccessful, as the commissioner is reportedly unavailable for comment. The demolition and compensation process is ongoing, with reports indicating that over 250 allottees have received compensation so far. However, more than 700 allottees still residing in their homes are left uncertain about the future.
All right, let's take you back to Gombe State, where we told you that the governor, Yahaya, has ordered the distribution of palliatives to the poor and vulnerable persons in the state, all in the spirit of the Ramadan fasting. Now, the governor directed the committee, headed by the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, to share all available food items in the store of the state to persons in need, including those with disability, the aged, and students on campuses.
Acting on the instruction of Governor Yahaya, the Committee for Ramadan Palliative Distribution in Gombe State, headed by the Speaker of the State Assembly, is handing over food items to vulnerable persons in the state. The items include 30,000 bags of rice, 6,800 bags of maize, 2,888 bags of sugar, 3,380 cartons of spaghetti, and 2,688 gallons of vegetable oil.
Over 30,000 bags of rice, and also the other items. Also, there is no item that is less than 3,000. So, and he directed that I should distribute all to the poor and vulnerable within shortest possible time.
The items are to be distributed across the 3 senatorial districts and 11 local governments of Gombe State, a gesture commended by the beneficiaries.
I'm very, very pleased with it because it's the first in history. It's the first of its kind. When we start Ramadan, and items that will bring ease to us are given to us. So it's highly commendable, and we are actually thanking His Excellency for this magnanimity.
You know, students, they are like Oliver Twist. The more you give us, the more we ask for more. This distribution didn't capture only NAS, so it at least captured non-separate, GOSA, Youth Parliament and other things, which also comprises of students and then some youths. So therefore, this tell you that it's a broad one, and we want to assure you that we'll do our best to look at it with fiscal responsibility, so that at least we touch the lives of those that need it the most on our campuses.
Persons with disability also laud the efforts of Governor Inuwa Yahaya's government.
Most of my members are begging in the streets because no way for income. So this government consider this to include people with disabilities to benefit of this palliative.
In his message delivered through the committee, Governor Inuwa Yahaya urges all Muslim faithful to imbibe the good teachings and sacrifices that characterize the holy month of Ramadan.
A significant shake-up in Abia State's education landscape appears to be on the horizon as Governor Alex Otti unveils a bold new plan promising to overhaul the entire system. The governor has launched the Abia First Education Transformation Program, a sweeping initiative aimed at propelling the state's education sector onto the global stage. From infrastructure upgrades to teacher training and curriculum overhauls the governor is vowing a complete revolution in the sector.
In the resolve to reshape education in Abia State, Dr. Alex Otti administration has launched the Abia First Education Program. The state government sees this as a bold step towards providing quality education for every student in every school across the state, with the aim of bolstering the state's socio-economic development. The launch event, featuring presentations and the unveiling of the Abia First Education logo, drew a massive crowd of stakeholders, teachers, students, traditional rulers, and key development partners, including representatives from UNESCO, the World Bank, the British Council, are all in attendance.
Recruitment of quality teachers to cater for the rise in enrollment figures following the introduction of the free and compulsory basic education program. Curriculum upgrade to accommodate emerging knowledge. Adoption of tactical arms to improve security and safety of pupils, and the host of other measures that have been carefully developed.
The Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education, Goodluck Ubochi, explains that Abia First is designed for comprehensive change.
They will bring to bear a wealth of knowledge, experience, and expertise that will ensure Abia First is not just a program in name, but one that will bring a real, impactful transformation into the lives of our students, educators, and the communities.
A representative from UNESCO and the team lead of the Education Reform and Innovation team sheds more light on the vision behind the Abia First initiative.
Our choice today will determine whether Nigeria emerges as a dynamic economy with a highly skilled workforce or faces the challenge of widespread unemployment, increased crime, and economic stagnation.
The initiative aligns with the British Council goal of promoting inclusive, equitable, and efficient education system.
And so, with a focus on training and digital literacy, the Dr. Alex Oti administration, along with all those involved, remain confident. They believe the 218 master trainers and 2,000 master teachers equipped with the new learning model will not only reach all 8,000 teachers across Abia State, but will also cultivate crucial digital proficiency among the state's young learners, a vision for a digitally empowered future taking root.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, is assuring Nigerians that the agency will redouble its effort to clamp down on producers, distributors, and consumers of illicit drugs across the country. Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the agency, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, stated this in Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, during the public destruction of assorted drugs in the state.
Thank you. This event is the destruction of recovered illicit drugs seized by the Kogi State Command of the NDLEA from persons who have been counseled and released. As the exercise gets underway, the agency reaffirms its commitment to ensure that illicit drugs are intercepted with more vigor in order to prevent trafficking to other states using Kogi State as a transit route.
It will interest all to know, after this exercise today, the command is still in possession of about 5 tons of drugs whose cases are not yet concluded.
Statistics from the National Drug Use Survey of 2018 indicated that 14.3 million Nigerians aged between 15 to 64 years are abusing drugs. For the agency, the statistics are worrisome considering their health and security implications. Redoubling its effort in ensuring that the production, distribution and consumption of the illicit drugs are reduced to the barest minimum is now a priority.
A breakdown of the drug for destruction today shows cannabis sativa, Indian hemp, Igbo, whatever you call it, amounts to 20 tons, tramadol 476 kg, Retinol 13 kilograms, diazepam 151 kilograms, Exo 5 668 kilograms, pentazocine injection 361 kilograms, cocaine 1.88 kg, codeine-based syrup 3 kg.
The Kogi State government is, however, working tirelessly in combating the use of illicit drugs in the state.
The state already identified 4 local governments in the eastern part of the state and 2 local governments in the western part of the state that are cultivating cannabis. We recovered last year. In the last 2 years, I'm happy your former commander, Mr. Alfred Adewumi is here. We've joined hands, we fought this together 3-4 years ago. We identified all these local governments, and we are going to join hands with the NDLEA to further identify and destroy their farms.
After the speeches, the process of identifying illicit drugs is displayed.
The woman was carrying this from Lagos and passing through Kogi.
Then the drugs are set ablaze. With the setting ablaze of the drugs, the agency warns against the use, trading and trafficking of illicit drugs in the country.
Meanwhile, operatives of the NDLEA have arrested a 42-year-old Angolan businessman, Mbala Daju Abuba, at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport, Kano, for allegedly attempting to traffic a large consignment of cocaine which the agency says he ingested to Istanbul in Turkey. Abuba, who is from the Zaire province in Angola, was arrested on Tuesday, February the 25th this year, at the screening point of the Kano Airport while trying to board Egypt Air Flight MS-880 to Istanbul, Turkey, via Cairo. A statement issued by the NDLEA spokesman, Mr. Femi Babafemi, says after his body scan result confirmed he ingested illicit drugs, he was thereafter placed under excretion observation, during which he expelled 120 pellets of cocaine weighing 1.829 kilograms in 7 excretions. And now to the arts. The Synergy is an exhibition and live drawing session at the Art Lab Gallery in Ikeja, Lagos. The show, which features 3 artists who graduated from the same institution, had award-winning actress Iretiola Doyle pose for a living drawing session. We see it on Art Review tonight.
Synergy, a collaboration of colors and expressions, is a group exhibition by 3 artists who graduated from the same institution. It includes a live drawing session by one of the exhibiting artists, Emmanuel Umoren.
Synergy, it's coming together to show the power of what you can create. We are creative people. We studied painting in Ahmadu Bello University. We have various styles. We have various philosophies in our work. So coming together to show the styles and different philosophies is the synergy of creativity in 3 of us.
The title came about us collaborating. It's about collaboration. We are 3 of us. So we've done painting. This is drawing. It's part of it. It's a collaboration of all the activities from drawing to painting. Maybe other mediums will come. Who knows? So I can relate it for now.
His muse, the delectable artist, Iretiola Doyle, who walks into the Art Lab Gallery in Lagos to pose for this session.
I don't think I've been anybody's muse before. So this was interesting. This was interesting to see. I see elements of myself, my nose, my lips, especially that cheeky smile. But I believe I'm going to have to spend more time with the portrait because he on first looks, this is how I would describe it. I don't think he just painted the visual. I think he went deeper and cut bits and pieces of my essence. I'm going to go sit down with that project and study it and see how much of me he captured.
And the gallery owner is excited that the space gets to not just showcase work of arts, but other engaging artistic activities.
3 graduates of Ahmadu Bello University decided to come together and have an exhibition in the Art Lab, the newly opened Art Lab. So here they are. But all 3 are interesting in their own ways. A mix of contemporary, older versions, interesting to the young, appealing to the old, and I think they should do well.
The versatility of this artist is displayed in this exhibition.
Time now for some sports news. Remo Stars have gone 12 points clear at the top of the Nigeria Premier Football League following a 1-0 win against Plateau United in the matchday 27 clash played in Ikene, Ogun State this evening. The Sky Blue Stars are top of the table with 54 points, while their closest rivals, Rivers United, are on 42 with a game in hand, and that game will be played tomorrow against Shooting Stars in Ibadan. Bayelsa United beat Bendel Insurance. Emma James and Bina Tombiri got the vital goals for the host to hand the Bayelsa State team their 8th win in 27 league games and are 15th on the league table. Abia Warriors and Nasarawa United ended in a stalemate. The People's Elephant, aimed by International, picked an impressive away win thanks to a 1-0 win against host Niger Tornadoes. Kano Pillars beat the reigning champions Rangers International at the Sani Abacha Stadium in Kano. Manchester United's miserable season took another turn for the worse as the holders exited the English FA Cup after losing to Fulham on penalties. Victor Lindelof and Joshua Zirkzee saw their spot kick saved by Bernard Leno as the Cottagers won 4-3 on penalties after playing 1-1 in regulation time at Old Trafford. Danny Welbeck sent Brighton into the quarter-finals as his extra-time strike clinched a dramatic 2-1 win against Newcastle in a stormy clash scarred by red cards for both teams. Brighton have never lifted the English FA Cup and last reached the final in 1983 when they lost in a replay against Manchester United. President of the Africa Table Tennis Federation, Ikota, says the continent must attain international standard in all areas following the successful hosting of the Africa Cup in Tunisia. The AWTF president reaffirmed the commitment of the federation to get more sponsors and fulfill the yearnings of the players to increase the competition prize money.
Well, very satisfied. I mean, honestly, the Africa Club Championships probably the most exciting we've had in a long, long time. Young players coming through from different clubs, different countries, and their performances were very, very, very good. What we have to look at overall is the fact that we've got new young players coming. The standard is world class, and you know, with the venue, everything we've done here, something to be proud of for Africa Table Tennis. The most important thing is capacity to do things properly. We should stop comparing ourselves to say this is Africa. There's nothing like that in any sport in the world. We must attain world-class standards, international class standards. We must chase those standards, and for the next 3-4 years, that's what we intend to do. And we've started off here. We're proud of this. Our partners are happy. We need to bring in more partners. Those are the areas now that are key. Bring in more partners, bring in more money to fund the training, to fund the programs that we're doing. And hopefully, you know, some of the players have said that we need to increase prize money. These are things that we're looking at, and hopefully by next year we should be able to attain these standards.
European leaders have been meeting today in London with Ukraine security top on the agenda. Well, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK, France and others have agreed to work with the Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has entered the Security Summit for European leaders in London with a call to countries on the continent to do the heavy lifting with backing from the United States in ending the war in Ukraine. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky attended the summit alongside other leaders at Sandringham Estate. In his press conference after the summit, the UK Prime Minister said the continent was at a crossroads in history. He unveiled that the UK, France and others have agreed to work with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting, a plan that will be discussed with the US, and together they will take the plan forward.
Through my discussions over recent days, we've agreed that the UK, France and others will work with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting. Then we'll discuss that plan with the United States and take it forward together. Our starting point must be to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position now, so that they can negotiate from a position of strength. And we are doubling down in our support.
Starmer said he did not accept that the US is an unreliable ally, as there are no two countries as closely aligned as the UK and the US. Earlier, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said discussions had been good and frank, and they had discussed the need for comprehensive security guarantees, including putting Ukraine in a position of strength and ensuring it has the means to fortify and protect itself. As for relations with the US, she said, "We're ready together with you to defend democracy, to defend the principle that there's rule of law, that you cannot invade your neighbor, or you cannot change borders with force."
Of course, security guarantees are of utmost importance for Ukraine, but we need comprehensive security guarantees. This includes that we have to put Ukraine in a position of strength, that it has the means to fortify and protect itself, from the economic survival to the military resilience. It's basically turning Ukraine into a steel porcupine that is indigestible for potential invaders.
The meeting in London comes after US President Donald Trump and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's altercation at the White House. Trump told Zelensky he was losing the war with Russia, among other things. For those watching in Kyiv, the future of their country hangs in a balance.
The Israeli government has blocked entry of all humanitarian aid into Gaza following a demand that Hamas agree to a US plan for a ceasefire extension. The first phase of a truce deal mediated by Egypt, Qatar and the US expired on Saturday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said Hamas was refusing to accept a temporary extension proposed by Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff. A Hamas spokesman said blocking supplies to Gaza was cheap blackmail and a coup on the ceasefire agreement and urged mediators to intervene. The ceasefire deal halted 15 months of fighting between Hamas and the Israeli military, allowing the release of 33 Israeli hostages for about 1,900 Palestinian prisoners and detainees. And the main news again. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara today promised to implement the Supreme Court judgment on the state. While the governor in a broadcast to the people of River State also ordered outgoing chairmen to hand over to heads of local government administrations on Monday. Also, President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, has raised concerns over disobedience to court orders and has asked government to lead by example. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun from all of us here. You have a good one.